Oh boy, that's scary when that happens. Wow.
Everybody.
So many names.
I'll just come bam, 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 bam when you open a waiting room like that. All right, guys, we're gonna hold just for another few minutes so people can get themselves all signed on. So just bear with us and hang loose for a bit.
I just want to squeeze everybody.
I know, I'll miss you.
Squish, 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 squish. I squish your face.
Gonna make me cry. Miss all you guys. Thanks.
Don't cry yet. It's 2:02.
Yeah, we have crying scheduled in at 2:46.
Okay.
We're on a very tight ship.
Yeah. We should have had music playing. We said that the last Zoom. We probably should have planned to have some music for this.
That was on you, Jamie.
Dang.
You're our Spotify.
Well, I could start
We'd be
singing.
listening
Well,
to
it would have been
Hamilton.
I don't think anyone would have a problem with that.
Oh,
There's some people that actually would. It does have a
Uh-oh.
bit of controversy surrounding it.
what do we say? Our Jordan had watched it 8 times already.
I made it to the intermission.
Oh, Mark.
Like literally, I was like, I did the 6-year-old.
Yeah, you've seen it how many times?
And I've seen it live 8 times. I know. It would sound that there's white privilege right there. I've seen Hamilton 8 times. That's white privilege.
Indeed.
And purchase tickets how many times?
Exactly.
Yeah, there. Okay. Just
Unfortunately, every time they don't give them a lot. I guess
Oh yeah, that's
guess
true. You don't
no.
get agent.
Pay for
I
it.
guess I didn't purchase for the opening in Chicago. But other than that, we still have had to purchase them. But I'm not complaining. It's Hamilton been very, very good to us. So we have, we'll go over some of the ground rules. I'm going to be here and listening in like a lot of you. We're really going to leave this meeting to the commercial team because those are the people that represent you on a day-to-day basis. And this was what the intent of this was for. But we have muted everybody just to keep from having too much cacophony of noise and sound. If you want to speak or ask a question, there are 2 ways for us to see you. One is if you go into the participants section and you can raise your hand. There's a little thing at the bottom that says raise hand. The other would be to direct a message Sam Sherry. If you go again to chat, and there's a little thing 2 at the bottom, and if you pick Sam Sherry, she will then get your questions to Val, Jamie, and Alicia. We did get some great things before the meeting that I know we tend to speak on, and things that we got from our last town hall that we felt maybe needed a little bit more digging or a little bit more addressing. So we did that as well. This is our first kind of smaller group meeting. First of many. I think our next one is next week with our New York theatrical clients. So we're rolling them out in waves as we speak to you guys and we hear more and we learn more and we do our learning on our end. And really wanted to continue the conversation about how we can better represent you out there in the world. We hope it's a safe space. we are trying to make it a safe space for all of you. I know that they are difficult conversations that people have not wanted to have in the past. And I hope that we can share with you that we are willing to have those conversations, either in a group setting or individually with anyone. On our last town hall, the members of the LA Commercial Department are still on salary at the agency. That is not true of every department, every assistant, every agent. And I can tell you that on our last town hall, we did ask our salaried employees to be there, but almost our entire staff was there. They sat in and listened because they wanted to hear and they wanted to participate. And I couldn't make them do that. They did that on their own time of their own volition, because I think the whole agency understands how important it is. So I just wanted to come on briefly. Thank you guys again for coming on here and sharing your reality with us and helping us see it through different eyes, because that's what's important. And I'll turn it over now to Alicia, who can get us going.
I did, if you want to speak to that, or we can unmute Sam, our stage manager here, and executive assistant, about technically how can they ask a question.
Yeah, so if you would like to raise your hand, like Mark said, go down to the participants and you'll see the opportunity to raise your hand. And then Alicia or Jamie or Val or someone on the commercial team will call on you, and then I will request to unmute you. And then when you accept that request, you're welcome to speak that to the group. And if you prefer to remain anonymous or you just don't want to speak to the group, you can also private message me and I'll communicate those messages and questions over to the commercial team to get those questions addressed in that way.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Sam. Welcome, everybody. Really excited that we've got, at this point, 75 participants. It's wonderful, wonderful to see you again. I hope you don't hear a lot from us. I really want you all to speak. That's what we are here to listen. We're here to answer questions when you have them, but we want you all to be the ones to be sharing your experiences, sharing your concerns. I'm gonna throw it to Jamie and or Val if they wanted to say something before we get going.
Hernandez.
Wanted to say we're here for you. This is just the beginning of this conversation that needs to be had. And while we may not have a Zoom meeting every month or every week, you know how to get in touch with us. You have our emails. We're not in the office physically yet, but if you call the office, it gets transferred to my cell phone. So you can call, and if I'm not the one you want to talk to, I can get you in touch with either of these ladies. But like Alicia said, we're not here to tell you about our experiences. We're here to listen and learn, and want you all to know that we are here for you, and we're just gonna do the best that we can, and this is just the beginning. So thank you for showing up today, and thank you for being here. And we miss you, and I'm not gonna cry.
Don't do it, Jamie. Don't do it. Hi, guys. Thank you for giving me a reason to put on a real shirt today. You can't see what I'm wearing underneath, though. All joking aside, hello. I'm so happy to see your faces again. We miss you madly. I did have one point of order, just quick business, which I'm like, well, while we have your attention, everyone at this point should have received 2 Google links, right? One of them was months ago when we first went into isolation, basically asking you to let us know what kind of gear and tech you're working with at home. And the second one was last month around June 12th-ish, I think, which was a second link letting us know what you're comfortable doing right now, if that meant going to auditions or callbacks in person, blah, blah, blah. So that being said, we refer to these links on the few breakdowns that we're working on right now. It's not a ton, but there's something going on in town. And if you haven't done those, drop us an email and we can resend you the links, because if you don't have the answers, I'm probably guessing you're missing out on stuff. All right, sorry. Anyway, just wanted to, I meant to point that out earlier, but now I can tick that off my list. I can't wait to hear from you guys.
Okay.
I have lived a very white, blonde, entitled life, and I need to hear what's happening in those rooms, because obviously I'm not there with you.
So just to give you an, I'm sure the conversation will go like a house on fire, but some areas we thought would be kind of germane to why we're here and talking as your agents. We want to make sure that we've addressed any behavior or language that you've gotten from our office to you that you had an issue with. Please bring that up. And if there are any questions around the submission process, what are we thinking as we're doing our submissions? How the role description is relayed to you, and what are the opportunities for BIPOC clients overall in commercials. Happy to talk about that. When you get to the audition, are there language or behavior that you found problematic with session runners, casting directors, other decision makers? Have you witnessed your white counterparts receiving different treatment? One thing we did was brought up is that our Latinx actors have been asked to translate their dialogue from English into Spanish. You should know that is compensation for that. So that is a conversation definitely to have with us should you be asked to do that at the audition. And then when you get to set, we understand routinely there is no competent stylist for black hair and black makeup. So we could have a conversation just about that. We're aware of it. We want to hear that until we believe it should be taken care of at a higher level than one agent or all the agents. We think it should be a contractual point. Until that happens, how can we help? And any other onset experiences that you want to share. So let's get started. I think Justin wanted to ask a question.
Justin, you should have received a request to unmute yourself. Maybe he changed his mind.
Okay. While we fill this time, Alicia brings up wording, and I had a quick conversation with Jamie about this morning. Is I remember being a WE assistant, God, now what, 20 years ago, Mark? I have no idea. And I remember very young, straight out of college, seeing a breakdown for an African-American role referring to the character as ghetto, and knowing in my heart of hearts that that was not right. And ghetto very quickly went away, and then the term street, more street, would come out. And now we're seeing the word urban, more urban, or like I hear, especially in voiceover direction, sometimes the redirect is, great, that was great, can you do it, but more urban. Is that a bad word right now? Can somebody educate me on how they feel about that direct? Because if I have a chance to tell a casting director on a breakdown, if I see the word urban and I can reach out to them and maybe use this as a teaching moment, what should it say? What would you prefer to see? What should it say? Like, I want to help educate them. Because I know everyone's a case-by-case basis, right? If anyone has thoughts, that's my doctor calling me. Voicemail.
I think Imani actually had rose her hand to specifically answer this question.
Okay, and I think Alicia maybe also.
Yeah, Lisa's hand came up before the question, though. That's the only reason I'm saying Imani. I think Alicia had something separate to say. So.
Okay.
And I saw Justin on there, so I don't know if he just changed his mind. I tried to call.
Thank you.
Hi everybody.
Hi.
I think this is a really complicated and valid question, Val. And I think there's a place for representation, right? There are different types of people in the United States. There's different types of Black folks in the United States. There's different types of Latinx people. And so You know, I've been getting breakdowns, voiceover breakdowns that say like authentically African American and and that kind of thing too. And I can't really sit here and say that I have an authentically African American accent because I still don't really know what that means, right? Because it's broad. And I think if you're encouraging casting directors to be sensitive and to like really dial in on what they want, the more specific they can be, the better, whether it's a regional accent or a neighborhood or an age or just really asking people to be really granular about what they're looking for so that we don't lump people into these like euphemisms for a racialized group, right? So it's challenging. Like you said, I think the words change every 5 years. And I guess another question I have too, especially with voiceover type of scenarios, because with the whole big mouth thing that came up recently and the, what's the other one? Central Park, you know, who can voice the minority roles? And so I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think these questions create more questions. And it's just something to think about. And I think the more specific people can be about what they're asking for, the better.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're going to go to Justin.
Oh, I see him.
Hey, Justin, can you hear us? You have a question for us? Or a statement? You have to unmute yourself.
Hi, Justin. I'm asking.
Okay,
Okay,
there we
now
go.
I am. Now I am.
There you
Now,
go.
yeah. Okay. I kept doing it; it wouldn't come up. Okay. I'm Justin Lloyd, and I've been with the company with the KMR really from back in the days of Jack Wormser, and all through the company names have been numerous. Okay, and the last time that there's ever been a meeting like this before any of this was through a print agent I used to be with called Nina Blanchard. And every year they used to have where people physically show up and they would talk about what was going on in the business, how to get better, a lot of the situations that were going on at the time. So I take my hat off to you with doing this, and I've been with KMR for about, 35 years or something. But the question that I do have for KMR is, what is it that we as the clients and what you deal with that we might not be privy to as far as getting us on opportunities for various jobs, opening things up so they have more diversity in what are some of the things that you might come in contact with, or some of the problems that you might have, and if there are any answers that we could provide, that anything that we could do.
Sorry, just to make sure we understand your question, Justin. So you're saying as we're doing our job and submitting, you're asking how is it that we can be as diverse as possible in our thinking?
Yeah, what roadblocks, what obstacles might you be experiencing that we are not privy to as clients? What some of the things that you might be privy to that we're not privy to?
Well, I can answer this, I think. I mean, when we get a breakdown from a casting director, they give us specific specs on what they're looking for. And we try to think outside the box on every role. Now, if they're asking for all ethnicities 25 to 40, we're staying within those age ranges and submitting all ethnicities on our roster. I don't think we brought this up yet, but if maybe we can touch on our percentage of Caucasian actors on our roster versus Black and Asian and Hispanic. I think we're pretty much 55% Caucasian on our roster. I think that those were the numbers. And then if I recall correctly, it was 20% Black, 15% Hispanic, or Latinx. I know, Brene, your question about Latinx, where did that term come from? Jumping around here, but honestly, I don't know where it came from, but I know that is what we are calling Latino and Latina people now. I wish I had a better answer than that. And there might be someone of Latinx descent more so than the Hernandez answering this that might have the better answer for you. But so when we get a breakdown, we're thinking outside the box, but there are times when we are asked to submit only African American, only Hispanic, only Asian, only Caucasian. And that might be because they know the other roles are going to be, if they're looking for an African American CEO or this particular commercial, and they know the coworker of the spot they would like him to be Caucasian or Asian, where they're trying to fill all the different ethnicities in their commercial. They're trying to have everybody in their commercial. And we can submit African American when they're looking for Caucasian. Casting directors may not bring you in for that because they know more than sometimes we know at the time of the breakdown. But if they're looking for maybe a family to put together, we're certainly thinking outside the box there, because I think, now more than ever, we're seeing mixed race couples in commercials. We're seeing African American fathers with Caucasian mothers. We're seeing Hispanic fathers and Asian mothers. We're seeing two dads that are all, all different ethnicity. So we're able to play around with that. And we have clients that are in mixed race marriages, and we submit even if they're looking for a white guy and a black woman, and we have the opposite. We're going to submit them, and it's up to casting to bring them in. And if we feel that they're 100% absolutely right and they didn't get the audition, we're going to call casting and make that pitch.
To speak again to Justin, your question, and Jamie, that was great. I was having a conversation with the casting director, because obviously our conversations with casting have now gone to a different level, as well as they're having these conversations amongst themselves as well. And the casting director said to me, well, we obviously don't bring it up, but we'll be in the room and they'll say, well, I can't cast him, he's too dark, and therefore it's harder to like. And I said, what do you mean you can't say it? This is exactly what you have to say. You exactly have to say it. That's the whole point of these conversations. You can't allow anybody in a room not to have that conversation. If you can't light it, find a different cinematographer. That doesn't make any sense. And you can't allow that conversation to go on in the rooms anymore. So just say, well, I would never say it. I said, this is when you have to say it. So I'm just talking about obstacles and what we may have been fighting behind the scenes that we didn't even know we were fighting, that we were submitting and people weren't getting times because casting felt they were too dark, or that, they were, whatever it might be. I certainly have noticed in the recent years, there was one point in time where if you were Asian, that was it. You played every Asian under the, right? You played Chinese, you played Japanese, you played Korean, they didn't care as long as you had Asiatic features. And now I think that casting is being a little more aware of casting correct and casting appropriate to those roles as well. And that comes from a conversation of, well, I want to see so-and-so. Well, but so-and-so is Chinese. And again, actors, it doesn't mean that you can't play. It doesn't mean that if you're, Black that you can't play, and from an African country that you can't play Afro-Cuban. I mean, there's, it's not about that, but it's just about making people aware of the prejudices they have going on without knowing they have them going on. But that was a particular conversation that I felt was directly related to what Justin had asked. So I'll leave it at that. Now I'll shut up again.
We want to try to grab some more questions from, I think Alicia has been waiting for a while.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
You can.
Hi,
Fred.
everyone. Yeah, thank you so much for having this second town hall. I have to say, Mark, that is like that's really heartbreaking for me to hear, that someone would not call an actor in because of their melanin in their skin, because they're too dark. Like, that is, like, I am so deeply personally hurt by that. And I have heard that before, of like way back in the day, you know, if someone was, I'm talking about like 40s or something, like it was harder for darker skinned actors to work because of lighting. But in this day and age, I'm like, it's 2020. Like, we got technology. Like, I don't understand. It's like the false narrative that Black people don't sell overseas. And then you have Black Panther. You know what I mean? Like, it's like this strange fake thing. Like, I don't even understand, but it's really, that is so deeply personally hurtful to me, that is, I guess, a subtextual thing being said but not being said, but that I have felt. Like, there was one time I went to a casting workshop at SAG Foundation they were having, and I went specifically because it was with a commercial session runner for office I wanted to get to know. So I went, and he pulled up my headshot, and he basically was like, you know, you have to make sure that you look the same color from your headshot and in person. Like, that's really important. And while the feedback wasn't offensive to me, it was just like that's a thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm almost don't really even know how to address it, because, you know, the colorism thing of, like, even within the Black community, of the preference of lighter skin is something even within our community that we get to deal with and heal from like slavery and who was in the house versus who was in the field, and lighter skin versus darker skin, and stuff that goes really deep, of people being able to pass as white or not being able to pass as white. But you know, I do, and I try not to give into the story, but there's been times that I've been up for a job, and I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize. Don't ever apologize.
I see the commercial, and they've gone with a lighter skinned Black actress. And I never want to take away from anyone's talent or abilities. In the same way, I'm sure a white actor, I'm sure they would not want to take away from, you know, a person of color. Maybe they were up for the same job, but there's something in my spirit that's always like, I wonder if they maybe went with her. Maybe that was something that was in her favor. Not even like that's the reason, and maybe that was something that worked in her favor, that she was just lighter skinned and just maybe more palatable, like, you know, to maybe they felt that she could appeal to more people. And it's like, the thing is, like, I can't change my skin tone or color, nor would I want to, but it's like, you saying that, telling me that that's kind of a real thing. It's like not in my head. So I don't know, like, what can be done about dispelling this myth around lighting, or even that lighter skin is less threatening, lighter skin is more appealing to more people. I think that people can experience the universal through the specific. You know, I can watch Crazy Rich Asians and feel like I experience something I can relate. You know what I mean? The same way someone can watch Black Panther and can relate. You don't have to be that background to understand a human experience. And so I don't know if it's like, to me, it's like a deeper conversation around seeing someone as a human being first, and knowing that before their skin color, like, not like, skin color than human being. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like seeing that we all have shared experiences as humans. And then there are some specific things that are specific to culture and race and background, you know, so that really, whoa, that really, I wasn't expecting you to say that. That really, that was really quite hurtful. The other thing that I wanted to address, two different things, is sometimes I feel like they cast like the black or the color version of a commercial and then like the white version. And this is something that was brought to SAG during the last commercial negotiations. I was going to the meetings, I was trying to, you know, be present and involved. And it seems like sometimes, just like sometimes they cast Spanish language and they cast English, you know, or, you know, and it seems like they will run the people of color version on like cable and like, I guess network they feel like would appeal to people of color, but then they run the white version on like the prime time, that make way more money, you know what I mean? And so I don't know if that's something even you guys can address, but it's something that I've noticed and other actors brought up. So maybe it's just an awareness thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, you're like, I'm glad to have a job. You know, I'm not going to say don't run me on the cable, but it makes you kind of feel like, again, of like, why don't you feel that people of color can appeal to all people in the same way that if I watch a white couple brushing their teeth with Crest, I don't think that couldn't be me. Like, it's just such a strange psychological backwards way of thinking to me. The other thing, and maybe this is something that you guys can address specifically, is there's been times that I've been called in for spots. I get to the call back and I'm the only Black person there. And so on some levels, it's like, okay, like I have this conversation in my mind of like, I guess I'm their Black choice if they decide to go Black, which is such a weird thing to say of like, if we go Black, then it's such a weird kind of, excuse my language, kind of like fucked up thing to feel of like, I don't know. But then the other hand, it's like, oh, well, maybe they're like trying to be open and like trying to look at some diverse choices. Like, that's cool. But then when you don't get cast like over and over again, and I've been in a situation a couple different times, been put on a veil, and then like it goes to the white family or whatever. I don't know. Part of me feels like this feels like a waste of my time. Like, as much as I appreciate opportunity and I want to be seen and I love the feedback of like casting like me, everyone like me, they're just not, I don't know. It just feels like, well, why do we run around? If you knew you wanted a Caucasian actor, like that's okay. Like, I don't, like, it's like the looking at diversity, but never actually booking it, you know? So it feels to me like we're playing charades, and it's like a seeming like we're trying to seem like we're considering, and we're seeming like we want to seem like we want to make change and progress, but not really the meaningful change. And it just becomes to feel like such a drain of energy for me. And I really have to work on my attitude. And maybe it's an attitude thing for me. I don't know the decision making behind it. Maybe it was something, maybe someone else just did a better job, you know, but those are the three things. So I'll stop.
Thank you, Alicia. That was amazing, and just from so many angles. I think the one thing that I want to say from knowing a little bit about what goes on in the room is that commercials and advertising are a lot about compromise. You have so many decision makers, and the person selected may not end up being the best actor or the director's choice. It's what everybody can agree on. And maybe that is what's happening with your experiences, where you're the only Black person or person of color, that you are somebody's choice, but you're not the majority choice at that point. And I hope you still show up in those rooms. I don't want you not to show up in those rooms.
Yeah, I agree with that, because you know what? Make them make the hard choices. Go in there and be as good as you can be, and make them have to say no to you. And that's hard on the soul, and I get that. And it's what has been happening. But being in that room is ultimately the only way it's going to change. In regards to your also your questioning about the different spots, this started when cable started. When cable came onto the market, advertisers suddenly realized, oh, I can advertise to a very specific group that will buy my product, i.e. the New Yorker magazine never used to advertise on TV. And then when A&E cable first came out, it was not what it is today with 800 48-hour crime shows. It was the effete, snobby kind of network, arts and entertainment. And then, well, we can sell the New Yorker on here. We can target our marketing for what we are doing. We certainly found in the 80s that when you watched the Cosby Show, you would see the black family with the car because they knew they were going to get that audience, and therefore that's where they were going to show that commercial. And so I think that that's endemic of, again, everything we talk about is systemic, right? It threads through every single thing that we do. And especially with commercials, it's as somebody once told me, you're not in the show business, you're in the advertising business. And it's about selling that product and how do they best sell that product. And so until we have more shows that they feel will appeal to the black audience, they don't want to show that commercial. And again, that's systemic. I'm not sure there's something that we can do or that the union can do to help that situation. That's about advertisers saying, we're putting our product on this. We're going to put this black family selling a car because it's the car we're selling, not the family. We're going to put it on Friends, which has a lily white cast. And not go, well, let's put it on Scandal where we have a black lead and we have a black audience. Per se.
Now,
So,
can I ask then,
please.
would that also include dismantling ad agencies? Because I don't know how familiar people are. McDonald's has 3 ad agencies. There's the main, I'll say white. There's, I think it's Carol H. Williams. Like there's ad agencies specifically hired to create and produce African-American advertising with African-American families and characters in the commercials. So McDonald's has the general market is basically how they label it. They have an African-American ad agency that creates literally they are popping in same set, different family. Here we are with the white family, here we are with the black family, here we are with the Latinx family. And they literally, okay, cut. And they move the white family off and they shift in the African-American family. Do your thing, okay, cut. And so this is the dilemma is also when we're trying to negotiate stuff, silly stuff like edits and print and all that other stuff that comes along with the commercial, is we've got to do it 3 effing times with different ad agencies. So, I mean, we talk about the systemic system. Well, that also comes down to friggin' multi-billion-dollar McDonald's saying they're the ones that need to say, we're no longer using 3 different ad agencies, right? I mean,
it goes so much, it's so much bigger than your agents. But we're here to do what we can and have those conversations with other agents. Alicia's part of the ATA. They're going to get together and talk with other agencies and talk what they can do in this time. We can go out and talk to our casting director friends and have these conversations. So what we're talking about now doesn't end here.
And we're going to bring you guys together with ad agencies as well. Alicia and I have already started working on a round table where we bring in ad executives so they can hear your perspective as well. And that's how it starts. It always starts with conversation. Just real quickly, Latinx came for the non-binary, that we took away the O and the A and just made it X because we can encompass the entire group of the Latin experience. So that's hence Latinx as opposed to Latina or Latino.
Can I just address real quick before we go to the next raised hand? We've had a couple of questions regarding casting directors who do have a lot of, they are gatekeepers in their own way. And is it Mark, are they with the Teamsters, that's their union.
Teamsters, correct, the Teamsters.
Somebody
Union.
asked about, do they have a union? They have a union. So if somebody
Yeah.
wants to address a question about why are there not more BIPOC casting directors, that might be a place to start. And
they have a trade organization as well, the CSA. I mean,
the
that's their
CSA, the
trade organization.
CCDA, specifically commercial
commercial,
is the
right.
CCDA. John McCarthy is the head of that. We have a question about, curious how much power agency casting directors have in the commercial space, given it's driven by advertising. I think we sort of addressed that. Can anyone speak to the power casting directors have to influence markets that are traditionally white, assumed to be wholesome all-American? I think casting directors have made great inroads in their own way in who they elect to bring in and who they fight for. I've had conversations with casting directors, you know, back when Mark and I started in the 80s and 90s, when it was a fight to bring in a diverse cast. And you've got the, God rest them, Danny Goldmans of the world, who were very pro-diverse casting, and they made their mark when they could. So Sam, you want to bring up our next
Is it
client,
Jillian?
Jillian, maybe? Where's Jillian?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi guys. Yes, thank you guys so much again for having part 2 of this discussion. I think it really means a lot to everybody that you guys are so engaged and making us a part of the process and listening. So really appreciate it. Mark, the thing you said about the lighting also struck me, more so because I've experienced it a lot. You know, a lot of times they'll go from lighting my white counterpart to me, and then it's like more setup and more lights. And it seems like that's part of the systemic thing too, because even when you have the diverse cast, you know, the set workers in general, whether it's directors, lighting, you know, the gaffers, the set, that is largely, from my experience, very white. And so, you know, I think the systemic nature is maybe they're thinking, oh, this is easier if they're lighter or white, like we don't have to do, because they're so used to lighting this specific type of person, and there's not a lot of diversity in that crew. So it seems such a different thing, maybe. I mean, it's nothing I've ever thought about, but it's something that once you said it, I can recall happening over and over and over, just like sort of oh my goodness, we need, you know, much more light. It is really interesting to hear that goes into the casting factors or in that discussion, though. I agree with, I think it was Alicia, like it's not something that I would have even thought of. So I appreciate your input too, giving us things that we hadn't thought about. And thinking about the word urban, it's sort of the same sort of larger issue. I think it's not that, because on some level you know what that means, and so you wonder, like, am I being, like, is this just stereotypical? And then as an African-American artist, like, am I perpetuating a stereotype by giving them what I know that they're looking for? And I think maybe even especially in that colorism scale, like, I think, you know, being a darker skinned African-American woman, I'm more the comic relief in a commercial, you know, that sassy word that came up, you know, definitely you hear all the time. And you see it sometimes, I've seen it like even with other actors in the room sort of feeling like they needed to go above and beyond to make maybe white casting and ad agencies comfortable, you know, from, you know, one actor in particular I know who works all the time, not with this agency, but somewhere else, but, you know, has come to the room and said the N-word, you know, to the consternation of the other actors, but like maybe he knew the director, probably had worked with them before, but they were sort of okay with it. So it sort of feels like, you know, doing this hyper urban or, you know, kind of almost placates things for some people in a way. And I don't know about everyone else, but it is a thing. When I see urban, you always sort of think like, okay, they kind of want to stereotype. So it could just be making it more specific. like the woman previously said, so that it doesn't go all the way into the stereotype. It doesn't just lend itself to that, or the actors don't feel like that's what they're doing. And if it's more specific, we can kind of be more professional and give them, sort of the specific thing they're looking for. And lastly, I have a question for Val. It is
crap.
about the ad agencies for McDonald's, and I've worked on several McDonald's spots, and I probably can't even tell which ones were the Black agencies, because systemically, I think they probably had, less production money. But in negotiating, like in those for the 3 different spots, or 3 of the same similar spots in 3 different ad agencies, have you noticed, like, do you get better deals for the mainstream ones?
No, not at all. Nope. No. Everyone gets the same damn deal across the board. Whatever I negotiate for you, for him, for her, at least when I've had to do these ones, it's favored nations at KMR. Everyone is signing the same deal memo, period, end of statement. Absolutely not.
And do they offer that from the beginning?
Nope, we have to ask for it.
Mm-hmm. And so
I think though also it is, I would hate to say it's implied, but if it's all within the same agency, that all our actors should get the same terms.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say I've been burned so many times, but I have been burned in times where I want to cover my butt and have them put it in writing with the words favored nations. Or the good news is all 3 of those deal memos are going across my desk. I can make sure that they all say the same thing, and I can mark them up and return them. But I think it's almost implied that if you're going to be doing a deal with KMR, and we're going to do the African American cast and the Latinx cast and the mainstream Caucasian general cast, that everyone's going to get the same deal points, because like logistically also, they like to make their paperwork easy too. Sometimes we ask for something and then the paperwork comes back and all of a sudden it says favored nations. Well, I can tell you that's probably from another agency or another agent who has the kid in the spot or whatever coming in on our coattails and asking for favored nations, because also the ad agency wants to streamline their paper process. They don't want to have to, I say they don't want to have to. I assume they don't want to have to make it harder than it already is. If these are our deal points, just put favored nations for everyone, so that way everyone gets paid the same. We don't have to keep track of how many edits did she have? She has 3. This person over here has 5. This person has 10. This person agreed to unlimited, so KMR wise, same deal points regardless, period, end of statement.
And so, yeah, that's good to know. And I guess, so the last thing is sort of what you guys were talking about earlier, like, casting definitely has their own unions. I'm sure the set does too. But it seems to be that the diversity, kind of like casting, they have an assistant and then the assistant rises to be a casting person. So if they're sort of always bringing in someone they know or a friend, then the diversity is not organic. So, do you recommend like writing to those unions and just they can begin a conversation, or what do you think is the best way to begin a conversation, or to have them start to think about other things in that way, to kind of address more systemic things that are bigger than just agency?
I would say the organizations, right? CCDA and the CSA. I would say those would be the places to approach.
Mm-hmm.
And they're online, and you can just write to them and say, like to see more people of color running sessions and in casting, and what are you doing about that?
Mm-hmm. And even set wise, so same thing. I'm sure they have unions and stuff too. So just sort of that same sort of advocacy across the board.
Absolutely. I think it starts with the director's nephew is a PA on his first job, or the assistant director's second cousin twice removed is now the gaffer, the boom mic operator. So it's all related. And if we can start at the bottom, there has to be some sort of outreach that we can, I wish that I can, create this program and say, here's for young directors, young writers, young creatives, for people of color, like this is where you start. And these are the steps that you need to take because that's what we need. We need more Black directors. We need more Hispanic ad agency people. We need, owners of these companies, these McDonald's, these Amazons, we need them to represent what America looks like, and it doesn't right now. So, but we need to start from the bottom.
Thank you, guys.
So let's go to Sam, whoever is next up with their hand raised. Either Carlise, Carla, I think.
I have Carla.
Okay.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey.
So let me fix that. Okay. So I just want to echo everything that everyone has said in terms of you all creating this opportunity for us to express how we're feeling about certain things. There's a couple of things that I want to say in terms of when we talk about how we refer to Black people in the description of an audition, particularly Black women. There is a word that's always used, sassy. And I'm not quite sure if people realize it or not, but the word sassy is a word that was used during slavery to describe somebody that was spirited or that wasn't taking direction the way that their slave masters felt like they should be taking direction. I cannot stand that word for that reason. And I feel like there's another word that can be used to describe what it is they want other than that word. Because for me personally, as a Black person and as a Black woman in America, I find it very offensive in that respect. I also find it offensive when they use the word attitude in regards to people that are Black. You know, it'll say, we need somebody to have attitude. And I've been in auditions where I will make a choice, I will do something, and they'll be like, can you do it again, but with more attitude, make it a little more sassy? It's just so, it's so condescending and it's so insulting, because I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't say that to my Asian counterparts. They wouldn't say that to my Latina counterparts, and they sure as hell wouldn't say it to somebody that's white. So I'm annoyed by that. And if there's some kind of way to communicate that to casting people, to let you just find another terminology, but that word is just, it's not happening for me. And on the subject of accents, you know, I don't think that casting people are aware that there is more than one type of African, there is more than one type of Latino, there is more than one type of Asian person. You know, Asians are Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, Asian Asian Pacific Islander. There are different types of people. There are different types of Africans. There's Nigerians, there's Ghana, there's South African, and not all of those accents are the same. And if we have to do our research to come in to audition properly, then they need to do their research when they're describing what it is that they want and not make it such a generalization. And another thing I wanted to address is I booked a commercial a while ago that had a star attached to it. And me and the guy that I did the commercial with we were both Black people, right? The person that was starring in the commercial was not. He was a very famous white man. And when we showed up on that set on location, they didn't have any place for us to dress. They didn't have a trailer for him. They didn't have a trailer for me. They had us dressing and undressing in the production office. But the white star of the show, or the commercial rather, had a big old, you know, headbanger trailer. And I just felt like, for whatever reason, we weren't valued as principals of a national commercial. It was a national commercial. And we were treated like background people, you know, changing clothes in a production office where people were coming in and out. And as a woman, that made me particularly uncomfortable. And no, I didn't say anything at the time, because as has been expressed in this forum before, in these town halls on the previous one, that when you speak up and you say something, you're afraid. And the fear is real. You're afraid that that casting office isn't going to call you in again. You're afraid that, you know, as agents, you're afraid that you're going to rub your agents the wrong way and they're going to not submit you for a while because you speak up. And last but not least, there's a situation concerning per diem. Now, I had a situation where I booked a gig out of town and assumed that I was going to get per diem, because up until that point, that's what would happen. What ended up happening with that particular job is I wasn't given per diem when I got there, but the per diem was attached to my session fee check. And I'm not quite sure if that's like some new ruling that went down, because as far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't be taxing per diem, and they sure as hell shouldn't be attaching it to a session fee check. That shouldn't be happening. And I don't understand why it wasn't given to me in cash when I got to that gig. And I definitely don't understand why, you know, as actors, we're broke. We ain't got no money. You know, we don't have no money.
It's unfortunately a tax law, Carla. It's anything you're given outside of is taxable income. It's I think that's when they started doing it. I think somebody on the production levels got in trouble for it. So I think that's why they now do it that way.
Well, why didn't somebody, for me personally, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So when I showed up, so imagine an actor that doesn't know that, and you show up out of town thinking you're going to get some per diem money, some cash in your hand. In addition to that, you got to plunk down a credit card for the hotel where you staying, for incidentals. We broke. We don't have no money. So to ask us to have money put on a credit card and then not give us per diem, and I understand what you're saying now about the tax law, but if someone could have told me that prior to doing that job, that would have been really helpful. Like, that was some information that I needed to know.
Right. I think it's something that we need to understand that because some companies do it and some don't. And so I think we need to know to ask those questions for you so you have that information.
The second you
going
brought that up, though, I saw, because we do have some people that are very involved in SAG, I saw a bunch of people go to write shit down the second you said that, PS, because that's probably something that needs to be addressed.
And if I could, we had your question about, do I speak up? Do I get in trouble? Is my agent going to have an issue? We had that with some other talent as well. It's an actor question, and we're having this forum so that you know that you can always come to us. There will never be, Mark, you want to?
No, sorry. I'm so bad. Look, I've been doing this a long time, and Alicia's been doing it a long time. And actually all of us have, just Alicia and I have been doing it a little bit longer. I have never in 30 plus years let a casting director blacklist a client of mine. I will stay on them every fucking session until they realize that they are blacklisting somebody and have to see them, because I will shame them into it. I will take it above their head to the next person. And I have had clients that say, well, I don't want to see her, she does this. Or I'm like, she's right for this, you need to see her. And you guys need to know that your agents are strong enough to have that conversation. There are some agents that aren't, and I'm willing to fully admit that, or tell them to their face that they're not. But certainly Cunningham, us, A3, Commercial 10, people that have been doing this a long time, you can feel free to demand what is yours and what are your basic contractual rights without fear that it is going to affect your livelihood.
And we would rather you have the conversation with us than have it on set. And it can get very uncomfortable. We know that. But as soon as possible to get on the phone with us, and we get on the phone with production, and we handle it in the moment if we know about it in the moment.
I appreciate y'all addressing that, because last but not least, I did have a situation like this. I did a commercial where my call time was in Arcadia at the butt crack of dawn, and I wasn't shooting in Arcadia. My actual shoot was in Hollywood. So they literally had me driving from location to location to location where they were shooting all these other people, and had me driving around all day using my gas and my car. And then when they finally got to me, I was tired. And then I had a hard time concentrating and getting it together. As much as I tried, I was having a hard time. And the director turned to me and said, you know what, you better hope that you you better hope that this runs, because the person that's in this spot with you is going to be really pissed off if this doesn't run. And they cut me out of the spot. So he basically threatened me on set that he was going to cut me out of the spot, and then did it. And it's like, I know you have no control over that. I had no control over that, but it was insulting because he didn't do that to the other 10 people that he shot that day. He didn't have them driving all over Los Angeles. You know what I mean? It's just the way that we're treated sometimes is like subhuman. I'm so upset. The way that we're treated sometimes is subhuman. I'm a human being. I'm an actress, but I'm a human being first. And I have feelings. And all I have is my reputation and my dignity and my respect for myself.
Yeah.
And when it's being challenged by people that I feel I have no recourse against, it's very upsetting. It's very upsetting. But that's all I really wanted to share. And I'm so sorry that I'm crying, but it's upsetting. It's just upsetting.
I said it to Alicia, and I'm saying it to you. Don't apologize for crying. You're friggin' human.
And
we love about you.
And we have to hear it. I cannot tell you how many stories I have heard in the last month from clients who have been in that same position that I never knew. And I can't, Valerie can't, Jamie can't, none of us can help if we don't know. You know, and again, that, you know, again, and that part of that is white privilege, right? I don't assume it's happening. I have to hear it. You have to call me and tell me. And I'm sorry about that. But if we don't know what's going on, then there's nothing we can do to fix it. But if we know, if we get that call, and look, we've been doing this a long time. We know how to have the situation, have the conversation, get you what you deserve without, my client called me, she's complaining, she's there. You know, I was talking to Carla, it was so noisy. I said, just jump in your trailer and let's have this conversation. And she said she didn't have one. What? You know, then it's a separate situation. It eases that conversation for you, so you're not put on the spot and you're not the difficult one. You know, we've had a lot of those conversations in our day.
Let us be the ones to handle it for you.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to say really quickly, Carla, in regards to the wording again, I know that we've talked about urban and sassy, and this is the first time I'm hearing that sassy is painful for you. And without having this conversation, maybe I would have figured that out from somebody else. I don't know, maybe not. But now I'm going to be looking at breakdowns differently. And I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for bringing that up. And I want you to know that we're going to be looking out for these things in the future and talking to casting on your behalf, keeping your names out of it. And, you know, we're going to be professional and we're the bad guys in this.
This is the thing.
That's true.
There's no bad or good guy. There's no bad or good guy, but this is what I want to say in closing out my little section here. This is the thing. People have been navigating through life for decades, not educating themselves about other people. When Black people and Latino people and Asian people, we have to, because if we show up and we're not educated, then something is said about us when we're not. So thank goodness we are having this conversation, and thank goodness some people will take the initiative and become educated, and maybe we can all be better moving forward. But I'm not gonna lie, this is painful and it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, we hear you. Because
I think we want to hear from Lewis, who's been waiting to talk for a minute. Lewis Tucker.
I'm trying to unmute myself.
You are
unmuted.
unmuted. Oh,
you're there, buddy.
now you're muted again.
We lost him.
You need to unmute again.
There we go. Nope, I had it. Hot minute.
Technology is not cooperating with Lewis.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. This whole adventure is, we go through one step forward, two steps back. It's, and what I wanted to share, because I started this in the 70s, when the actor, I started in New York City. So the actor would go to the ad agency, and the ad agency had its casting people. And what was interesting, because we're talking about ghetto, urban, sassy, all of that sort of stuff, we would look at the breakdown, and we would look at, the Black actor would look at how heavily shaded in pencil was the color of the person. So we've gotten out of that thing. I mean, it would have gradations of lightly shaded, heavy.
Oh,
Just muted
we
yourself.
lost you again, Lewis.
That was my fault. I did it trying to mute myself.
No, sorry.
Am I? Okay.
Sorry. So you're talking about the storyboards back then? You'd see the boards.
The
at
storyboard stuff that
Okay.
we would look at, the copy, it would be on the copy, how heavily they shaded the character. And so we got through that hurdle. They don't do that anymore. Or it seems like they don't do that anymore. I've been blessed enough to do the crossover thing, to be pitched. I've done a number of commercials, started in New York with a wonderful director, Michael Ulick, that I was scheduled to audition for a football player who was just maniacal and huge and all of this sort of stuff. And he said to me, "You're not that guy." But let's see where this ends. The other two actors in the spot were supposed to be white. And he went to the ad agency and convinced them to cast me because I was funny and they needed funny. So there are people that do work for us, but the progress is slow. Watching this sort of unfold, I'm surprised that of the stuff that lingers, that just should not linger. It should not be there. But it was much worse. Casting directors evolved out of the ad agencies. A lot of them left the ad agencies and started on their own, and they started calling in people. And in New York, when I started, you could freelance. You could just freelance any agent. That thank God that didn't happen anymore. But I've been with KMR. I'm on my 33rd year, actually, when it was Joseph Helfand and Ricks. And I've always felt a sense of home. I've always felt that what I had to say or what I had to do, I could come to you and talk it out. And I always felt that I was being heard. Because I think it's important that we talk to you and tell you what's happening in the process. I've had concerns. Alicia and I have talked about a few things. Jamie and Valerie and I have talked about, we've all talked about that. It started with Cindy and Pam for me. As a matter of fact, the longest interview I ever had was with Cindy and Pam when it was Joseph Helfand and Ricks. It was like a 2-hour interview, which was crazy, you know, that I was given that much time. But there is, it's a shame that progress is taking so long. We're going through a period. It's also what's happening around us. We're going through a period now where some people have been given full license to hate, to strike out, to do all of this. And I hope that changes. Oh, one example. It was a McDonald's commercial. Interesting, McDonald's. This was in New York, went for the casting. For the callback, I was on another job, but I ended up booking it anyway with 4 other Black actors. And we were all cast as ourselves. And through the beginning of the shooting, the client wanted more ghetto. Oh, I think that was more ghetto. And we looked at the 4 actors, we 4 actors looked at each other, and we decided, since we were in New York City, that we would do Uber 125th Street, what that stereotype is. And we did that on the next take. And they said, oh no, go back to what you were doing. Because they were finally embarrassed that they had asked for something and we gave it to them, and they would go, whoa, no.
We didn't mean that.
Didn't mean that at all. So yeah.
Hey, Louis, thank you. That was amazing. Can I just say there's a reason that this agency is having this conversation now and not a year ago. Something is broken loose in this country. And I can't say that it's going to come back in the same way. I hope to God not, but people are listening that were not listening before. Things are happening that would not have been possible before. I think that I feel encouraged and buoyed up by other people than me, who have given us wings to be your voices in ways that we didn't have 2 months ago, a month ago. So that's why we are so determined to keep this conversation going. And it's not like it's going to be over in a week.
And also our place in the industry. We are the first voiceover commercial agency in Los Angeles. You know, we opened in 1957. And I know that on this journey, we have always tried to be, not just KMR, but other agencies that have been try to be the leader in the forefront of having these conversations and having cast directors talk to us about these changes and what to expect, because we've always really tried to stay on the curve. I'm going to say on the curve. I used to say ahead of the curve, and this has taught me I am behind the curve. But to try to be more aware of what's going on than others, so that they have a place to come to ask these questions, and we will certainly. And that's why we want to bring cast directors to the table with you as well in this conversation.
Maybe we can hear from, I think Asim has been, had his hand up. You can find Asim. There he is. Hey, nice quarantine beard.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be quick. Look, I moved here from Bombay, like in 2012, 11, something like that. And ever since then, like, I remember I had a bunch of meetings, and KMR was my first meeting, and I saw someone that looked like me and Alicia, and my mind was made up pretty quickly. And, not to discount the other agents, I love everyone, but, that made a huge difference for me. And, I think for a lot of us diverse folks, we're pretty, grateful and happy to have KMR as our reps, and I think we know that you guys are on our side. My whole thing, because I made an agency friend who's never going to be named, but like, as I've been learning how they operate and how they go about things, it's scary. It's really scary. So I guess my question is, I know Mark mentioned it already, that you're going to have a roundtable with the agencies. with ad agencies, like, what can we do? You know, I've stood up, you know, there's one time Val told me to go stand up to the agency and I was cut out, and, you know, no one else was. And I have zero regrets. You know, I thank Val, like, for telling me to go and stand up for myself, you know? But what can we do as diverse folks to, you know, come together with you guys and really try to stand up against these agencies that have, you know, these practices that are essentially just predatory, and, you know, they bully us?
I wish I had an answer to you, Asim. You know, someone mentioned making our own content. And I don't know if that is a road to get, you know, more people of color in commercials. But maybe that's where it starts. Maybe that's one thing that you can do. I don't, I feel like we kind of touched on this, that we have direct contact with the casting directors and the breakdowns, and so we're going to be doing what we can there. And Mark mentioned that we're going to do town halls with the ad agencies. And I think it's just having these conversations and trying to make the move in that direction with them. I don't know if I have an answer to you as to what we can do right now, this minute, to break them, to break these decades old.
Yeah, it's a hard conversation, and Reggie, our moderator last time, actually said we're trying to solve problems that we're never going to solve in our lifetime, and we just have to make it better for the next and better for the next. But one other thing, Asim, that I do want to share: anytime you're in a situation, a lot of people don't know this, and I know you old-time union people probably do, but anytime you are on set and you are in a situation in which you feel uncomfortable, when you sign your contract, if you sign it with your name and under it put "under duress," that will immediately flag that job for the union. And it will also may flag that job by the producer, who will then pick up the phone and call us to find out what's going on. So when you sign, you know, you feel unsafe or you feel that it's not, if you sign, you know, Asim Tawari "under duress," it immediately flags the whole system. And that's another way to kind of push it up the chain. I can't promise it doesn't mean you're ultimately not cut out, except at least you've got written proof that I did this and that I was cut out, as opposed to, well, I said this and then I was cut out. And you know, we have a little stronger argument down the line that way. But anytime you are feeling uncomfortable, know that that's an option. I'm not sure that a lot of people do know that that is an option. I'm not sure a lot of actors know that that is an option. So you can go about your job, do what you're doing, try not to make waves, but you put on that contract signed under duress.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, just let us know what we can do. Yeah. It all comes down to the ad agency, you know?
Asim, do you mind sharing with, I say, the room, like what we encountered?
Yeah, I mean, that particular incident doesn't have anything to do with racism or race relations. It was just, you know, could happen to anyone. On set, there's a particular part in the contract that, you know, my agents had taken care of, but they did not have that on the contract. I think it was about edits or something like that, usage.
Probably. That's usually what happens on set, is the edit fight.
And yeah, you know, I'm lucky enough to have Val, who picks up her phone at like 7 a.m. on a Sunday, you know, and I was the only one that, you know, went and said, hey, can you change this? And someone who I knew was a very like baller ad exec. That person literally within like 6 or 8 feet away from me, when I told the AD, I'm like, hey, this. He went to her. She said it out loud, so I could hear it. She said, "Tell him to sign it, or I'll replace him with you." You know, she made her world clear, and you know, you do what you can. What are you gonna do? I have zero regrets. That's my thing. Like, it's fine. They can keep those residuals. I'm okay with it. You know.
Cool. Jamie,
I think
Carlise calling on next.
I think Carlise.
Oh yeah, we were just going to say Carlise had her hand up. Carlise, and then Paul Kim, I know, also had his hand up. So we can, Paul, you're on deck.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
I'm going to pin you, Val, because I don't want to look at my face.
Well, I will look at your face, and I love your blue audition wall. I said it before. I'll say it again.
Audition wall. Oh my God, my heart is racing right now. Carla, Renata, oh my God, damn it, Carla. Shit, I don't know if she's still on here, but I've known Carla for a long time. She is one of the strongest women I know. But to see her and feel and hear her pain just makes me feel it even that much more. I had a private conversation with Jamie. I don't even know. Oh, I think it was when y'all posted that you were going to be closed on Juneteenth and that you actually acknowledged Juneteenth. And I didn't even know that was the Juneteenth flag that you had posted on Instagram. So I think we're all educating each other right now. I'm learning, you're learning, we're all learning from each other. It's painful, and I want to thank you for doing this, because it's painful, because, and I'll just speak for myself, I can't speak for every Black person, but so often we're quiet because we don't want to lose a job. We don't want to make somebody mad. We don't want to lose our agents. All of that stuff that goes into other people having power over you and feeling powerless. And I know I was raised to be tough and strong, and you don't say things to upset anybody. You just do your job, suck it up, and be quiet. Sign the contract, go home, whatever my mom would say to me, you just shut up. And you just, my mom grew up obviously in a very different era where they were not allowed to say anything. It would be, and way back, obviously, it would be life or death. So some of that stuff is still present, it's there, it's systemic, it's layers and layers and years and decades and centuries of oppression is what it is. And we finally have you guys and other people who care enough to ask us, what can we do? What are you feeling? You've never heard these stories before because we've never shared them before, So thank you. Thank you for caring enough. I just wanted to say to you, Val, that urban to me is not a negative term at all. There's Urban TV, which is a streaming platform. There's Urban One Radio, which is a network of radio stations across the country, which is on the stock market. You can buy shares to Urban Radio. That's not negative, but I've lived long enough to know that we as Black people have been called Negro, colored, Black, and now someone has named us African American. I don't know who's making up these names. I don't know why they change all the time, but my parents were colored. And when I was born, we were Negroes. And then in, I don't know what year it was, we were Black, and now we're African American. I can't even say African American. When I describe myself or other Black people, I say Black, because that's what I grew up being the most comfortable with. I'm not anti-African American, but aren't there white-skinned people who are African American? So how did that become, so it's confusing to me, but the same thing happened in the industry with ghetto, street, and urban, right? It was ghetto, and then somebody says, oh no, that's not good. Let's say street. Oh no, that's not good. Let's say urban. But where it's negative is when it becomes stereotypical. Like I don't remember the gentleman's name, Tucker. I love that he went totally stereotypical when he was given the direction to be ghetto, because casting advertisers, they need to be very clear. What is it that you want? Can you just be specific? Can you give us an example of a type of character that you're looking for? Can you use adjectives? like tough or describe the person that you're looking for, as opposed to just, to me, it's just very general, but we know what they mean, you know, but they have to know what they mean. Like, what is it specifically that you want? It's more than an accent, you know, and there are, as you all know, there are different types of Black people there. You know what I mean? Forget it. Everything that y'all are, we are too, okay? The whole range of people in this world. So I just think it needs to be more specific, and no, Val, it's not, to me, it's not a negative word at all. One other thing I wanted to say was, can I just, how much time do I have? I just have one more thing to say about ghetto. Should I go to the next topic?
I think we got to cut off at 7 o'clock, so you got about 3.5 hours.
Okay, now let me just say this one thing about the word ghetto. When I was a little girl, the definition of ghetto in Webster's dictionary was a community of the same culture. It had nothing to do with Black. It was any culture. It was a Jewish ghetto or an Asian ghetto or a whatever. And Mark is nodding his head because I think you know that. So
the Jews start, yeah, we were the first ones put in the ghetto.
Yeah, so that's what it was. That's what I grew up knowing it. And then all of a sudden, it, you know, I don't know who's doing this, waving this little magic wand and making these words mean different things, but it had nothing to do with being Black. Okay, so I'm done with that topic. The other thing I wanted to address was to the young lady that talked about being the only Black actress at a casting session. I've had this conversation with so many of my Blacktresses. It's not even funny. We talk about this all the time. It always surprises me to see who's in the room when I show up at an audition, because I mean, yes, I can see that it says Black or African American or whatever, but sometimes I don't pay attention to that. I'll pay attention to what we are supposed to wear and the age range or whatever. And I'll go in and I'm surprised sometimes. Sometimes I think it's going to be the regular crew of Blacktresses, and then other times I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm the only one. But I never get upset about that. I don't ever see that as a negative. I kind of like it. And maybe I'm different. I don't know if anybody else wants to speak to this, but I know one thing, they're going to remember me. I'm going to be different. I'm always going to bring my A game. I'm definitely going to make different choices than the other people there. So I never look at it as a negative thing. I kind of like enjoy it. And last year, y'all know, I went on that Fios commercial. I was the only Black face with 80-year-old white ladies with white hair. I did say to myself, there's no way I'm going to get this, but you called me, you invited me to the party, so hey, I'm going to have a drink, right? So I go in and I do my thing and I get a call back and I'm like, wow. And I don't go in like half-ass, you know, I do my best. I bring my A game to any audition and I go in and I'm like, well, I'm just going to have fun. I'm here now, you know, la, 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 la. Get a call back. I'm like, okay. And I booked it. And the woman was like, the character was doing needlepoint, and you know, and I was like, I can't even sell this. I'm not selling this needlepoint thing. There's no way in hell. But I booked it. So I'm just saying that to say, I'm not telling anybody how to feel about how, you know, their audition process, but it is not a negative thing, because all I want you to remember, ladies, Blacktresses, they invited you there for a reason. So go in there and do your shit and book the job.
Thank you, Carlise.
I like that story. I mean, Jamie and I talk about this all the time, is when the character comes out and they don't know what the hell they are looking for, we submit as colorblind as possible and just assume that they are going to pick the best actor out there, period, end of statement. I mean, we also, when we take rep meetings, and actors say, so how many people like me do you have? And it's like, well, what's the definition of like you? Okay, Black women over 40. Do you want a specific number? Does that help you in some weird reason? Like, yes, of course, you should be going into auditions where you walk into the lobby and this is what you see, and you clearly go, okay, well, this is what they want. But how many times do you walk into the lobby and you're up against men and women and all ethnicities and all ages. Like, okay, this is a free-for-all.
Right.
Fuck it. Throw caution to the wind. I'm going to put it all down in the audition room, and it's just going to go to the best damn actor. And that may be you that day.
Right. Right.
So thank you for that spin. I like that take.
I think we're going to go to Paul Kim.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having this meeting. And it's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces and new faces. And it's so wonderful to hear from people that may not normally talk about some of their experiences. I think it's incredibly brave. Just to add what Carlise said, and in response to Alicia, I think, Carlise is right. I've been in those situations as well. And when that happens, I'm like the only person of color. I'm not just talking about, the only Asian actor at an audition call. I'm talking about the only person of color. It happens. It may be a matter of perspective, but in those situations, I always felt it was indicative of my reps who knew what I was capable of doing and what I could bring to the table, and said, hey, why not Paul? And it's also your relationship with the casting director as well. And I've always been grateful for that. There's this wonderful actor. His name is Clyde Kusatsu. He's Japanese Hawaiian American. He's been acting for 50, 60 years. Wonderful guy. He spoke at my high school one time, and he spoke about how when he broke into the business, he did episodes like shows like MASH back in the day. He spoke about how he felt he had to work 10 times harder than his Caucasian counterparts just to stand out, just to be professional, be prepared. And that always stuck with me. And that's how I felt whenever I had an audition. I was always grateful for those opportunities, regardless of how limited those situations may have been. Even before a time where most work or commercials are going to non-union production or non-union work, those opportunities have been very limited for a lot of us people of color. But again, I always felt very appreciative and lucky for the opportunities that did come my way. And in doing so, we did have to work harder. We had to do things differently. We had to be even more professional than anybody else, So just to add to Carlise, go in there, be you, because obviously there are people that do believe in you and your abilities. And I hope that carries forward from this day forth. There are going to be questions, because my concern is sometimes we forget that we're also going through a global pandemic. And I wake up every day and I go through my news feed or I'm watching the news, and there's always some example of rising aggression towards Asians and Asian Americans. And it's incredibly hurtful, because not only am I seeing this play out on the news, somebody's like, videotaping it on their cameras, or I'm reading it in some article, but it also reminds me of every traumatic experience that I've experienced in my life with prejudice and racism and being told to go back to my country, even though I was born here. And while we're having this discussion, like, I guess my question is to you, my agents, my representatives, or do you anticipate a reluctance on the part of advertisers or brands and companies to utilize Asian talent, because there is this there's this want to blame Asians for the origin of this pandemic that we're all going through?
Well, I mean, that's a fair question. I wish we could see into the hearts of those people that would have that point of view. We can always question if they seem to be not seeing our Asian people as a group. I think it's fair to say you're not seeing our Asian people. We can always question. We may not get the right answer or the answer we want, but it's I understand the fear.
Yeah, let me just say, I feel like our opportunities are limited enough. I don't know if you can hear me because it says my internet connection is unstable.
I hear you.
But, okay, thank you. You know, and for us to be going through this situation now, it's just like, you know, it's another obstacle to being able to do that, you know, the thing that we love and to support ourselves. Yeah, and it is difficult. I mean, a lot of us question, okay, well, you know, what is our place in society? Are you know, I mean, are we viewed as humans, or are we viewed as a fucking virus? You know?
Damn it, Paul Kim.
I'm sorry.
You got me.
Oh.
You got me
No.
now. I mean, because what I'm having flashbacks to is working on 9/11
Yeah.
and watching commercials get pulled because they had people that looked differently than me, you know? And we did recover and we bounced back, and we always bounce back. It just, damn it, Paul Kim.
I'm sorry. Thank you, though. Thank you.
I'm
You've
crying
always had my
because
back.
I'm crying because I'm
all of
human,
you.
damn it.
Yeah.
Don't be sorry if you guys are being so amazingly vulnerable and sharing really from your heart, and it means so much to us. I'm just speaking now because I know both Jamie and Val are crying. So somebody.
I love you guys. But no, I you know, it's been a godsend since Jen Boyce introduced me to y'all, and I couldn't be happier. I just, I think all of us are going through an incredibly challenging time.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, you know, just one group. It's a lot of groups. We're all trying to adapt. This is the new normal. And yes, we are all scared, but thank you for having this conversation so that we can discuss, you know, okay, well, you know, present to the table like what our concerns are.
Sure.
Where do we go from here? Thank you for, you know, all of you who are incredibly brave to share your experiences, because, you know, a lot of the natural reaction is to just bury it. We're going to be fine. We got to be strong, you know? Well, you know what? Sometimes I can't always be strong. You know, I can't always bury it. And I need to talk to people, my peers, my reps, about my concerns. And I'm grateful that we do have a place that all of you can express your concerns as well. And I want to listen to those concerns. There are people here, I'm looking at your beautiful faces and you're all listening. And it's such an incredible, you're taking time in your life to listen to other people that you've never met. And it is a beautiful thing, and I'm grateful. Thank you, you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and you know, I have to say, we lose very few people during these, you know, this is the second one, and people want to stay and they want to hear, and we got a little bit of feedback. You know, well, I was surprised there were white clients on the thing, and I really felt it was important to open it to everybody because I want everybody to hear. We don't get better if we're not all listening. And I you know, I teach a class at UCLA. One of the things they taught us a couple years ago in dealing with the microaggressions is sometimes you have to step up and fight the microaggression that's being perpetrated on other people, right? That little Asian girl who grew up here, but everyone says, oh, where are you from? And she's from, you know, Pasadena. But everyone assumes because she looks Asian, she's from another country. And so sometimes you have to say, you know what, maybe, did you ever think that she's from here and you're asking a question that is a microaggression? You know, that you, the Black actors that are doing, this has been carrying for 400 years. You know, for all of us that you know, coming to this country and carrying those aggressions that have been perpetrated against us, Latin, Asian, Jewish, Irish, you know, Italian, it's happened, you know, that we all need to maybe be more aware of each other and what's being perpetrated against each other so that we can stand up. And so we really do appreciate all of the vulnerability and everything that we're hearing.
I think we have probably another couple of questions we can get through before we're going to try to wrap up. Sophia has been wanting to jump in.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Anne.
Great. Hi. Thanks for everything that everyone shared. It's really quite moving hearing everyone's stories and stuff. I just wanted to say to the urban ghetto, which I know also applies to other folks when it comes to doing an accent or all those kinds of stereotypical things. I think what's hard is that I would love to think that I'm going out for everything, and I would love to think that I'm in the room because of me and not necessarily because this role always calls for a Black person. And so sometimes it throws me off. Like recently it was, you know, can you be more sassy? And I was just like, and my gut instinct is always to go completely opposite of that. My gut instinct is like, I'm going to purposefully not do that because I don't know why you're asking that, right? It's like, it's clearly from the white perspective that you want this certain performance because it makes you feel more comfortable, or you think that this is what we all are or something like that. And so that's the thing that kind of surprises me every time I hear it. And it does feel like, as we have this conversation, that that's something that's more on the casting side, more on the advertiser side. But it is something that I'm just so...
I don't mean to stop you. Yes, it's on the casting side, but we want to know because we can take it out of a breakdown.
Okay.
We can change it, you know, so that we're not sending it to you that way. We can have that conversation with them. Hey, sassy's really a triggering word, but when I send it to you, I can change that wording if I need to. Yeah. So that's why we want to know those words that are those triggers, so that we aren't we're not funneling in there going, well, casting did that.
Right.
We want to be able to correct it on our end in transmitting it to you, because that's going to make you feel better when you go in the room and make you do the job that you want to do. So
cool. I mean, I think I appreciate that. I haven't seen it a lot in that way, but it's something that's often said as you're auditioning, right? I mean, that's kind of, I guess, what I'm speaking to. Like, this is something that's usually said to me as I've performed it a few times and I've done it again. And then that comes out and then it's like, okay, well, and then in the moment, as you know, we're used to dealing with this as people say things like that. You're just like, there's this whole calculation of like, how am I going to react? Am I going to react? Am I just going to do it? When am I going? Like, there's this microsecond of you trying to figure out how you're going to proceed. And I think that's the thing that I'm curious about, because it's really clear to me that, like, you know, we're also, as Carla was saying so beautifully, like, we want to work, like, we're broke, we want to work, we want the job. And so I don't always want it at all costs, but I do ultimately usually want it. And so I think that's kind of the thing that I'm kind of hung up on, which is essentially like, how do we, if we do want to advocate for ourselves, say in the room, and say, you know, when you say that, you know, it just kind of offends me because of X, Y, and Z, that may affect whether or not we get the job, right? And so then you guys will have our backs, but does that mean that we're still going to be considered on equal footing when we've actually, you know, been bold enough to actually speak out? That's essentially the question.
Thank you, Sophia. We do have a client that is a session runner, and I know that she wanted to mention something earlier. Jolene, what you had to say earlier, does that help with, or can you answer Sophia's question or comment in regards to how session runners can be in this scenario?
Yeah, somebody in the room.
Yes, it bleeds into it so beautifully. And thank you, Sophia, for speaking up about that. Look, one thing I wanted to say, and I, especially over the last 5 years, so I've been running session, and I recognize some of you from that. So I'll be the person running the camera and telling you where to stand and what to do and all that. Actors have so much more power in the room than they think. You know, I'm happy to hear about sassy and urban and all these things because I'm learning something. These are things that I might have thrown out, you know, not thinking, because they were handed down from the ad agency. And so it's super valuable to me, so that I can be there and be an advocate in the room for you guys. All you have to say was something like sassy to the session director specifically. not sure what you mean by that. Can you, some of you have said things like, is there a different adjective, or is there a characteristic you're looking for? You know, or with a session director in particular, we don't have any power to blackball anybody. It's not going to happen. So if you want to, I've had somebody look at me at one point when I was giving a direction, and they just went, man, that's some white people shit. And I was like, yep, absolutely right. Let's see how we can adjust around that. You know, you can absolutely speak up, and you know, especially in a first call situation, you've got the power, you know, as long as, and you guys have all been respectful and smart and articulate, like I would personally encourage you to take that moment and speak up about that. And the other thing I wanted to offer up is something that I've seen, and Mark hit the nail on the head as far as what advertisers are doing to target certain parts of the country. They speak in dollars, never morality points. You know, in casting directors, even 5 years ago, commercial casting directors were getting really wise to the fact that social change was being used by the advertising agencies to make more money. It's always going to come back to money. But I have seen so many casting directors who I respect go to bat for you guys. You know, I'm not putting that breakdown out. That's offensive. No, speak to me in terms of skill and character, not stereotype. I'm not putting that breakdown out that way, which I hadn't seen as strongly, you know, 5 years previous, and especially now. And that's why I say you have so much more power than you think. And Mark said this too. I mean, nobody's going to get blacklisted for going, no, that's not acceptable to say that to me. You know, so anyway, session directors should absolutely be your friends. They're not always going to be in the best mood, but we are there to help you. Most of us are actors as well. So yeah, for what that's worth, it is changing. I also want it to be a lot faster than it is. So I'll shut up, but that's what I wanted to throw out there.
I want to say thank you, Jolene, for sharing that, because I didn't know that at all. I think also, though, part of the reason why this is of interest to me is that the pressure and the onus is always on people of color to speak up or make the change happen. And it's like, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I don't really want to educate in that moment, or really period. I literally want to just do the job that I think that you're hiring me for. I think you want me to come in here and act. I think you want me to come in here and be funny. And I don't want to have to wrap my brain around, okay, you've just said this thing, okay, I'll say this, and I don't want to do it. And so I just hope that across the board, it's really nice to hear that casting directors are figuring it out. And I just hope that this kind of trickles up to whomever else.
Totally, anytime, and you can make it real easy on yourself, you know, blah, 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 oh, Sophia, can you be sassier? Choose a different word. You can just say that. Say that, and hopefully that takes some stuff off your plate, because we'll get it. It's the same, it's I know there's more underneath it, but with any other actor, you give them a direction and they go, I don't really understand what you want me to do. Can you walk me through it? That's that's you taking care of your instrument and your art, and that is just totally, yes. So I know I can't make you not exhausted with that. There's so much on your shoulders, and I'm sorry about that part of it, but just know that, yeah, I absolutely have your back, I'm going to go ahead and speak for every session director, because they all absolutely should.
Yeah, that's, you know, nice to hear. Again, I really would hope that this is like not a thing going forward, but I don't necessarily expect it to change anytime soon, because I know that this is new for a lot of people, but it's just something I want to speak to this point in particular. So thank you.
Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you, both of you. We're going to do one more question. Marissa has had her hand up for a while.
Hi.
There she is. Hey.
Hello. So I just wanted to share some things, because I'm sort of in the weird half Latino, half white. And since I was a kid, I was never, you know, white enough to be part of the white kids, but the Latino community always rejected me because I'm not a native Spanish speaker. And this goes back to when my mom was in kindergarten. She didn't speak English. My grandparents came from Puerto Rico, and the nuns pulled them aside and said, "This is America, you speak English." And in that meeting, myself, my sisters, my cousins, we all lost Spanish because my grandparents only spoke Spanish to their kids. And I actually had an agent once, not here, years ago, call me and say, hey, I know you don't speak Spanish, but I'm going to send you to this audition. It's just 4 lines. And I practiced those lines. And I showed up, and the session person signing me in was speaking to me in Spanish. And the whole session was run in Spanish. And I was just struggling. I had to slate in Spanish. Everything was being done. And she actually halfway through stopped me, was like, just go. And I was like, and everybody else stayed in the room, and I left, and I cried the whole drive home because I just wish I wasn't put in that situation. Like, I wish I would have had more information about, I mean, this was a big casting agency that was known for their Spanish work. So I don't really know why my agent thought I could just go unnoticed. And it's something that I've dealt with. I've had people, nobody ever asks me, hey, do you speak Polish? Can you cook really good Polish food? Like, have you ever been to Poland? It's always, oh my God, can you speak Spanish? Can you cook really good Puerto Rican food? Like, do you tan well? It's always kind of those questions. And so I've had people say, you should be ashamed of yourself that you don't speak Spanish fluently. And it's like, well, I can't change how I was raised. I can take classes now, which I am, but it's frustrating to kind of not be good enough for either side. And I know like ethnically ambiguous is this hot term now, but a lot of us who are ethnically ambiguous had rough childhoods, like not fitting in and not really being accepted anywhere. And I'm still fielding questions of like, hablas español? I'm like, well, a little bit, but I'm from Wisconsin. I don't know. What do you want me to do?
Marissa, I 100% had same. I mean, in high school, I was not Hispanic enough for my Hispanic friends. I had probably 3 or 4 other Hernandezes in my homeroom, and they all spoke fluent Spanish. I all went to all their quinceañeras. I did not have a quinceañera. I mean, I'm half Polish and half Mexican, and my father was not taught Spanish growing up because they said the exact same thing to my grandmother growing up, or in the 50s. This is America, you speak English. Yeah. So I get it. I'm sorry that you had that happen with your agent. I hope that if we're ever in that situation, I trust that we have good enough relationships with casting that if a breakdown comes out and they're looking for novice to intermediate Spanish speakers, that it's a couple of lines here and there, like that is that we know about that ahead of time. We don't know sometimes until you get there, and this goes for a lot of the breakdowns. Sometimes we don't know what they're adding last minute. You find things out at the audition, at the callback. You find things out on set that we don't know about. Just a reminder, we are here. Call us. We don't ever want to put you in a situation where you don't feel comfortable. And if, Sophia, you are in that audition and they say something to you and you are not comfortable with it, I understand you not wanting to offend anyone, or you don't want to risk losing the job. It's a heavy thing to think about. Like, if you walk out of this room because they're saying something that you don't like, is this going to risk losing this job? Are you going to, getting blackballed from the casting director? But like Mark said, that's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen. We are here to protect you, and we are here to represent you to the best of our ability. And that includes being an ally on all of these fronts. And just come to us. We can't say it enough that this has been so eye-opening for us. And this should have been done the first year I was an agent at KMR. This should have been done when I was growing up. This should have been done. These are conversations that have been needing to happen. And I'm so glad that this is happening now. I'm sorry that this is just happening now. But I trust that the team that we have, we're going to continue to have this conversation and make ourselves better so we can be the best allies that we can for you.
We have to be as educated as we can be. And Marissa, unfortunately, that's what happened with your agent. They're uneducated. Those of us that have been around long enough know they're asking you if you speak fluent Spanish, not because you have to learn the copy. because they're all going to talk to you in Spanish, and the director is probably Spanish. And that's why you can learn 6 lines in Spanish. I have no doubt, right? If you have some knowledge of Spanish, even if you don't, there are tons of people that have learned lines in a foreign language. They're asking if you're fluent Spanish because that's how they're going to speak to you. And you need to know that going in so you don't get blindsided going into a room. You know, and I'm sorry about that. We are going to wrap it up. If you have other things that we need to address, please send them to Sam. Sam, do you want to put your email into the group chat so everyone can see it? Or it can go to info. Please know that somebody, I think Carlise, you said something about the power structure. I have always believed that this is a paradigm that is on its fucking head. We work for you. We take 10% of your money. We don't have power. You have the power. You have hired us to do a job for you and to represent you. And to be your representative, we need to know what you want us to do and how you want us to do it. And so know that you can come to us with any problem, concern, like, hey, your lights go out and then you're sitting in the dark, moron. But anyway, but know that we are here to listen. There's nothing you are going to say that is going to make us release you as a client, drop you as a client. If you are calling us about yourself, your concerns, your safety, your mental well-being, your health, your state of mind, your whatever it is, we are here to work for you. And we want to have as much communication with you as possible in this journey. And know that you know, I think it's Justin or somebody, Lewis maybe said, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. We're hoping it's going to be 1 step forward, and maybe only 1 step back, and then 2 steps forward, and maybe only 1 step back. There's going to be back. We know there's going to be stepping back, sliding back. That's, you know, we're fighting an uphill battle out there for you every day. You know, Valerie, when you brought up 9/11, I remember how painful that was. I remember those spots getting pulled because there was a Middle Eastern actor in it. Or, you know, we had one actor who's Middle Eastern and he was in a building and the Xerox commercial and the machine was so powerful it blew out the windows. Well, they pulled that commercial in a hot second, right? You know, and it was a very painful time. And we had to push through it as we always have. But know that we are there fighting for you. And we're fighting for you. This is another thing. We are fighting for you whether you are Black, Latinx, Asian, Indigenous, white. We are fighting for each of our clients to the best, to the best that we can do every day. And that's what this has continued to do for us, is to remind us that as good as we have been, we need to keep being better. And that's our pledge to you guys. So thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. And thank you for your vulnerability.
I love you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
I just like seeing everybody sign off.
All right.
I'm gonna think he's gonna be the last one here. I should probably leave. I've got breakdowns to do, guys. Come on. Okay, no, I'm still here.
I'm not leaving, Jamie. Not leaving.
I love it.
Am I on mute?
Nope.
Oh, you're fully mouthing off to everybody.
Tom Simmons.
Justin, you're still there. Did you want to talk, sir? You still have your hand up. All right.
All right, I'm signing off.
Much love, everybody.
Bye.